love these comments, though, about the real ACT. I appreciate y'all sharing that. So, would any of you like to pray and ask the Lord to bless our practice, our time together? Ian, thank you for volunteering. He didn't, I'm just saying. Thank you, Ian. Would you pray for us?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Ask the Lord to bless our time together.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you that we had a nice fall break. Please help us to have a good time in class.
Yes, a good time in class. Isn't that what we always have with ACT preparation? All right, so out on the top of your little seat there, if you would please put the science drills. You had 5 that you owe me for your homework. There were 5. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I just combined them all.
Yes, just leave it up there. And so, how did it go, the science reviewing? How did it go? How many of you, this is my thing, I've been waiting for this. This is good to go. How many of you, I hate this, can't wait for it to be done? That is me.
It just takes a lot of time
It's kind of
to
like
think through it.
Yeah. Yeah, Amy?
it's like reading in English than science.
All right, so
So
math
like-
is yours worse.
I don't like it. No, there's not enough time.
You got the whole hour, but you're right. It's like 60 questions, 60 minutes.
I tried to do it time efficiently, and then I just missed a bunch of questions.
With the science?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to go through just a few notes in the book. So if you guys will open up to page 317, and I promise, once we get to the practices, I will come around and check that homework. I will get it. I have to check this anyway. Yeah,
I moved my stuff and then it just like shot forward.
yeah, just leave that. I'll come around and check that.
So much today in chemistry, Miss Gross was like.
So what I would like to do is kind of go through some notes here just to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as this science section, okay? And it's really just a review. I just pulled from what you guys already read. So here on page 317, this was a reminder just right in the middle. This is not a test of science facts. It is instead a test of how well you look up and synthesize information from tables, graphs, illustrations, and pages. All right, so it's not a science test. All right, it's not going to test you on scientific facts. It will test you on how well you can analyze, compare, interpret, synthesize information in tables, graphs, illustrations, perhaps a little blurb, right? And you got a taste of that. Well, you got a huge taste in that on your test. And you got a taste of that with the science drills, okay? So there you go. On page 318, if you'll turn the page 318. Yeah. All right, so you'll notice in that paragraph up at the top the word passage-based on page 318. Passage-based. Do you see that phrase there, or that word? All right, so remember that the questions in the science section are passage-based. And what that means is that everything you need to know to answer the question successfully is going to be in the passage. Okay? Now, there is this little blurb here, outside knowledge. Amy, could you read that gray box about outside knowledge?
Yes. So the entire thing.
Yes, please.
Cool. Most of the questions can be answered from the information presented in the passages and figures, but be prepared for 3 to 4 questions that require outside knowledge. The outside knowledge questions are nothing to stress over, however. There is no way to predict what the outside knowledge questions will be on the next ACT, so there is nothing you can do to prepare. You cannot, and should not, try to review everything you've never learned or already forgotten. Besides, the outside knowledge questions tend to ask about fairly basic facts commonly addressed in intro-level high school science courses. For example, you may need to know what a honey badger is a mammal, or you may need to identify a chemical formula as bleach, or you may need to know where acid falls on the pH scale. In any case, remember that for the overwhelming number of questions, everything that you need to answer them is right there in front of you. Use the basic approach we'll teach you in chapter 22, and you'll do just fine.
All right, so basically then, most everything is going to be from the passage itself. And it does help if you have basic knowledge, but you should do successfully fine without it, okay? You know, the ACT cannot 100% guarantee that everybody who takes the test has had the exact same science information given to them in their classes, right? So they have to make it so that anybody who sits down and takes this test is going to be able to have a fair advantage with everybody else, all right? So most everything is going to be in that passage. Remember that. All the answers are right there in front of you. It's an open book test, okay? It does help if you have prior knowledge, but it is not absolutely necessary, okay? All right, so this is what you're looking at. So there on page 318, on the science test, here's how it breaks down. It's 35 minutes. It's the same exact amount of time as the reading test. The reading test is 35 minutes. Your science test is also going to be 35 minutes. And that is probably going to be 6 passages. Maybe they will squeak out 7. Do you remember how many you had, Kyle, for the science?
A lot.
Yeah, you're just like flipping like crazy, right?
There we go, 7 then.
7 is going to be, I don't know why they would even say that. 6, if for 35 minutes, I mean, do the math. 35 minutes, 6 passages, about how much time is that per passage? Between 5 and 6, right? I mean, that is...
Yeah, I found when I did it, like, you can't even read the passage. You
It's
just have
so
to look
fast.
at
Yeah,
the
it's
words.
so fast. And that's going to be 40 questions. 40 questions.
Did you get through like 5 out of 6 passages in it?
I got through, yeah, I think I did, like, definitely 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember it was the last one I kind of just had to read questions where I could just look at the chart.
Yeah.
And then get stuff from it.
Actually, that is a terrific strategy
Yeah.
to use. Yeah. Yeah. All right. On page 321, it talks about how time affects the science section the most. And you're going to feel the most pressure, the most stress against the clock probably on the science test because it is so many passages and only 35 minutes. All right. On page 321, look at the section, it's called Pace Yourself. So this is an interesting strategy to remember going into the science test. Kyle, why don't you read this? The Pace Yourself there on page 321, just that paragraph.
Unless you're shooting for a 27 or higher on the science test, you're better off choosing at least one passage as never. Take 35 minutes and do fewer passages. You'll give yourself more time per passage and increase your accuracy. As you steadily increase your scoring goals in practice, target the number of questions you need to reach your goal. The more aggressively you can move through the passages, finding all the now questions you can answer. No matter how difficult the passage may be, the better you'll score.
Okay, so what does that boil down to? So turn to page 25. Just hold your finger there. Go turn to page 25. This is the science scores. So you have 40 questions total. All right. If you have 6 passages, 40 questions, what is that? How many questions per passage? Maybe 6 or 7. 6 or 7. So let's say that you only did 5 passages. You had 6 passages in your science section, and you say, you know what? I'm going to do the first 5 and focus on those, and I'm going to spend the last 30 seconds and just letter of the day, passage 6. Let's say that there are 6 questions on passage 6. All right, if you miss, well, you're not going to miss all 6, actually. That's why you letter of the day, because you're bound to get 1 or 2 thrown in there by bubbling in the same letter. So let's say that you miss all of them, all 6. What would your score be, even if you miss all 6, because you didn't even read it?
29.
It would still be pretty high, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, and that's if you missed all of them, which you're probably not going to if you letter of the day. All right. And so that still gives you a good margin to miss make a pretty good score, even not reading one whole passage. So do keep that in mind. All right, that is something if you're like me, I'm not a science person. All right, I would skip one passage and I would just letter of the day, at least one, and spend more time trying to figure out 5. All right, but that's me. That's personal to me. My personal order of difficulty, science. If yours is not, then, you know, maybe you have a shot at getting through all of the passages. But that is something to think about. All right, pacing. All right, number 6, the 3-step strategy. The 3-step strategy. So this, oh, there you go. This goes, actually, before we do that, look at page 319. 319. We're just highlighting what you read over the past couple of weeks or an hour before you came. All right. There's 3 types of passages. Here they are, 3 types of passages that you will encounter here on the science. All right. The first one, charts and graphs. All right. So you'll definitely see charts and graphs. Number 2, experiments. And then turn the page. Number 3, you'll have a dual science passage. All right. So these would be conflicting scientist viewpoints. All right. So that is what you can expect to see. You saw a little taste of that with the science drills. All right. Look down a little bit, page 320. What does it say right there in the middle of page 320? After how to crack the science test. Order the passages. Do you remember in the reading section when you there's 4, and before you even start, you just real quick decide, this is what I'm going to do first, second, third, fourth, right? So that you can spend the most time on your strength passages in the reading. Do the same for the science. Maybe for you it doesn't even matter. I don't know if it would matter for me. But for you, you can do the same. All right, order the passages. If there's one you're like, I think I could get this one. You're just glancing at it and already starting to understand, jump right in. All right, but you do not have to do them in the order that they're given. Okay, same with the science. And then after order the passages, what's the next main little topic there in bold? Yeah, how does that relate to the science? You guys know this. Lisa, explain it to us. How does this relate to the science, this strategy? We've been talking about it all semester.
Pick your, for the passages or for the questions?
Both.
Well, I guess, how I see this is the passages you're going to do now, the passages you're going to do later, and then probably you said the 6th one, you pick one, you're just going to letter of the day and you're never going to do it.
Yeah, so it can apply to the passages.
And the questions too.
Same with the questions.
Yeah, same thing.
Same with the questions, right? Same thing. Very good. All right, we talked about the score. We talked about pacing yourself. Very good. Turn to page 322. Page 322. All right, so this be flexible will, on page 322, start in the middle where it says, however, you have to fight your own instincts. Do you see that part? Will you read that? Start there, please.
However, you have to fight your own instincts, or at least retrain them into those of a great test taker. Always be prepared to adapt your order based on what you see both in practice and on real test. If you choose a passage that looks good and then find yourself struggling, leave it and find another. Ignore the voice in your head that says, well, I put so much time into this incredibly hard passage already, all that time would be a waste if I didn't finish the passage. Nothing could be further from the truth. You're throwing away a perfectly good time if you stick with a passage that you're just not grasping.
Keep going.
You have to be just as strict with the tough question. When you're stumped, your first instinct may be to go back and read the passage, or stare at the figure again, waiting for a flash of inspirational genius to suddenly make everything clear. Instead, focus on finding POE, process of elimination, to get rid of answers that can't be right. Even if you can cross off only one answer, guess from what's left and move on. If you stick with one tough question too long, you may be robbing yourself of the time you need for 2 to 3 questions.
Okay. And so be inflexible. And then this is a good reminder here. Aaliyah, would you read what's in the box?
The grid one is a 1.93 points off.
Yep. This is a really good thing, very good key to remember here.
Easy questions are the same number of points as difficult questions. Don't waste time struggling with a hard question when you can move on and answer easy questions. You can always come back to the hard question if you have time.
All right. It's just a good thing to remember. They carry the same number of points. All right. In science math class, maybe you get more points for harder questions, but not on the ACT. Hard and easy, same number of points. All right, so it's okay to skip if needed. All right, so let's talk about this 3-step strategy. So this was, let's see, where did we get to? Yes. Oh, here we go, page 342. Page 342. All right, so the 3-step strategy. Remember, you choose the order. You can choose the order of the questions. You can choose the order of the passages. There is really no rhyme or reason to difficulty here. On the math, your easier questions are typically going to be first. Then you move to medium, and then your harder questions are going to be last on the math test. But in science, not necessarily so. Okay? They'll be kind of all jumbled in there. All right? So the 3-step strategy for each passage. Number 1 is what? It's up here on the TV. Main point. Find the main point. The main point of the graph, the main point of the chart, the main point of the little blurb you're given. Figure out what the main point is. Number 2. Right up here. Now, later, never. Decide. Is this one that you start to take a few seconds to figure it out? Is it coming to you? Is it more difficult than you thought? You can make those split decisions. Be flexible with what you can do now, what can wait later, or do you need to just go ahead and letter of the day and move on to the next question? And then number 3, the pose. The panda pose. You know that Kung Fu Panda? All right, I think about that every time. All right, so with process of elimination, you are looking for the wrong answers first. Even if you can eliminate one, that helps, 1 or 2. All right, so there is your 3-step strategy. Find the main point, decide, now, later, never, and you can, as you're going through, you can decide never. It doesn't have to be something that you stick with, and I'm going to answer this, all right? It's okay to ditch it and move on. And then POE. Look for the wrong answers that can help you kind of zero in on the right one or zero in on a good guess. All right. Let's talk about the science strategies. All right, so there are 7 of these. They were in the book, but I kind of pulled them out to help with your preparation, with memorizing, working these strategies through the science section. All right, so we'll go through these quick. We'll do a couple together. Then you get to do some on your own. Yay. All right, I know you're excited. Very good. All right. So let's go through these. Oh, I know. I wanted to do them from Quizlet. Have you guys been to Quizlet? Yes, you have. Yeah, I know you have. You've been to Quizlet, to this green folder right here. Yep. Oh, click again. Oh, click one more time. What is this magical place called Quizlet? Whoa, it's all the strategies. Here is flashcards.
Quizlet is amazing.
Oh.
Quizlet.
No Quizlet. I don't know any others. What are the others to use? Are there other ones to use?
No, I was saying Quizlet's great.
Oh, it's great.
We should do what's that one? Kahoot. We should do
Yeah.
Kahoot.
Yes,
Maybe
Kahoot.
more.
Yeah.
It's
It was
great.
amazing.
Yes, Kahoot is amazing. I agree. All right. So the pace. All right. So you've got 6 passages total. If you're going to choose to do them all, it's about 6 minutes per passage. So you can remember this: science and 6. They both begin with S. All right. Some passages you may
There's
get
7
under.
passages.
What's that?
There's 7 passages.
Then it's even shorter than that.
5 minutes.
Yeah, it's even shorter than that.
A note, don't bring a watch that beeps. I did, and I
Yeah.
just got in trouble. So I got my watch taken away. Because
Yeah.
I set it, or I just started it, and then it would go off every hour. So then I couldn't track my time.
Did they give it back?
At the end they did.
Wow.
But
if it like beeped when you turned it on, you couldn't have it. That's
Yeah.
literally every
I
watch.
know, that's every watch ever. I was like, whose watch doesn't beep?
I know. It's there. You have to get these old-fashioned dumb watches.
That's
That,
what I have.
Yeah, well, luckily I brought this watch too, so I pulled it out during break, but it's
Yeah.
a lot harder to read than a digital watch.
can you turn off the beeps? Like this one
I have
beeps,
no
but I can
idea
turn
how
it off.
to. I lost the instructions like 5 years ago.
Google it. Google what kind of watch it is. I bet.
That's true.
Yeah, I bet you can figure out if you can turn those beeps off.
Yeah.
That's a good point then.
Yeah, the guy who's super strict in mine now.
You got to do bonus ACT.
Yeah, took my
You
watch.
took your watch away. You just had a good time. All right. So but it averages about 6 minutes per passage. Okay, that's your pace. All right. The 3-step basic approach. Here we go. So remember, main point. Find the main point of that table or that graph or that blurb or whatever the information is. Make sure that you pay attention now, later, never. All right, you can make that decision quick. As you're working it, you can change it as you go along. And then PO to eliminate. PO to eliminate the wrong answers. All right. What do you read? Oh, I didn't tell you. What do you read? Only
Blurb.
what you need. Only what you need. Ian referenced this while we were talking. You do not need to read everything in the science.
Oh yeah, there were graphs that weren't even asked about.
Yes.
I just read them.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why. That's why. So what do you read on the science? Well, what do you read? Only what you need. All right? So for this, you get the idea of your main point of what this passage is, which includes tables and graphs and this little blurb, and you go right to the questions. You go right to the questions. All right? It's the same you do with the reading, right? With the reading passages, you decide the order you're going to do them, and what do you do first? You read the title, you read a blurb, you go right to the questions. This is the same thing. All right? All right, for scientific reasoning, here's what you need to keep in mind. You make no assumptions. Make no assumptions about the information that is given. You only base your decision, your choices, your answers on exactly what is given in front of you. Number 2, you only change one variable at a time. And number 3, you keep all the other variables the same. When you are reading information in a table or a graph, all right, don't make assumptions about that information. Change one variable at a time and keep everything the same. All right. Now let's talk about direct and indirect proportion, because when you read these graphs, you'll see a lot of these: the x-axis, the y-axis. So what's happening with these? All right. And we just wore your book out. Your book is like, I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here. Okay. So here we go. Direct and indirect proportion. All right. Keep doing it. All right. So direct proportion. If x increases, so does y. All right. Let me draw you a little thing here. All right. So direct proportion. Here is x. Here is y. So if x increases, so does y. It's going to look like this. All right, and this is a linear positive slope. All right, when you see a graph that looks like this, x increases, so does y. And then the opposite is also true. All right, so indirect proportion.
Is this your sign?
Yeah. When you're reading the graphs, you can get a lot of information just by looking at the graph right here and going right to a question. And the same is true this way. If one increases, the other decreases. That is indirect. One increases, the other decreases. Here, they both do the same thing. Right? Okay? This is a negative slope here. This is a linear negative slope. All right. Couple more. All right, x-axis, y-axis. This x, this is always your independent variable. Y Y is always your dependent variable. Okay, whether it's direct or indirect. Same. All right. Let's talk about the lines. Okay, so the linear positive, this is a positive slope, this is a negative slope. What if you see a curve? This is exponential. All right, so this is exponential. What that means is every time x increases, what am I said it. Y changes each time that x does. It's an exponential growth. Exponential growth. All right, so this is a curve. That's what the curve is. Exponential change. And why is this important? Because you can just look at a graph, and if it looks like those, then you already know information about it, and you've read nothing. Okay, but you know graphs, and you know how to read graphs. So that's helpful. All right, and the last, the Fighting Scientist Plan. So one of the passages will be different scientists' views on the same topic. All right, and it's just like in the reading your dual passages. All right, remind me how you do the dual passages in the reading section.
You read one, answer its questions. You read the second, answer its questions, and then do both questions.
Exactly, and that's exactly how you do this. Exactly how you do this. So you read the first scientist, answer those questions. Read the second scientist, answer those questions. And then it is important because they will ask you questions about the main points for both, how they agree, how they disagree. So as you're reading, note that. What is the main point? All right? And then when you read the second scientist, what is the main point? Where do they agree or disagree? Because probably there will be a question about that main idea. Then you just work the rest of the questions. Sound simple enough? All right, let's practice. So if you will, turn in the book to page 480. 480. Let's practice. So let's do this. There are 6 of you. Let's do some groups today. So Kyle, if you'll come over here, we'll have the fellas work on this one together, and the ladies will work on this one together. All right? I'm going to give you 7. No, let me give you 8 minutes on this. I'm going to time you on this one. 8 minutes. All right? Work together on this to get the answers together. All right? 8 minutes. 8 minutes.
Just the
You're
first
going to do
passage?
480 to 481 and stop. Just passage 1.
So we have to work together.
Work together. Yeah.
You do 2 questions.
If you know the answer, go ahead and don't just answer it. Explain it to your small group there. Make sure they get it. All right?
Let's just work through it.
I'm going to get this little thing.
But let's not start by reading.
Yeah, just over 2 questions.
You guys like the countdown, right?
We'll wait
Yeah.
until-
All right, 8 minutes. You ready? All right, go.
Okay, going to table 1, photographs, velocities, and sums. Okay, so velocities like bottom.
A's first.